Sometimes, the worst kind of heartbreak comes not with shouting, but with silence you never expected. I don't remember what day of the week it was. I just remember the weather, overcast, the kind of gray that seeps into your chest like cold water. I was standing in the kitchen when the email came through. Due to restructuring, your position has been eliminated effective immediately. Just like that. 12 years gone in 12 words. I stared at the screen, waiting for something else, a follow-up, a call, maybe even a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. I called my boss. It rang once. Then voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I drove straight to my parents' house. I told myself they'd understand. I told myself I didn't need comfort, just a place to feel human again. A couch. A hug. A simple, "We've got you." I hadn't cried yet. Not once. I was saving it for when I felt safe. But when I walked in the front door, something felt wrong. They were already gathered. My parents, my sister, her husband. My mom offered a tight smile, like I'd interrupted something important. "We were just talking about your situation," she said. My father stood. Not to hug me. Just to speak. "You need to take this as a sign. Maybe it's time to stop chasing things that clearly don't work." Chasing? I'd been working myself into the ground to help them. Paying off their mortgage, covering my sister's student loans. I wasn't chasing, I was holding them up. But then my sister laughed. Not a chuckle. A full laugh. "Honestly," she said, "we thought you'd have the decency to stay quiet about it. Not show up like everything's fine." And that's when I saw the table. Wine glasses. Plates. Candles. A celebration. Not for me. For being rid of me. They had thrown a party. Not a "we'll help you get back on your feet" dinner. A goodbye. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of them. I just walked out. Not a word. Not a slam of the door. Just silence. The kind that says more than any scream could. Something broke in me that night. Not hope. Something quieter. Trust. When everything's been taken from you, what you build next is yours. Every nail, every scar. The apartment was barely more than a box. One window. Peeling paint. A mattress on the floor and a faucet that coughed more than it ran. But the rent was cheap, and no one asked questions. That made it perfect. For the first time in years, no one expected anything from me. No morning calls. No late-night favors. No texts asking for help that sounded like demands. I had disappeared from their lives as quickly as they had cut me loose. At first, it hurt. But then, it became a kind of peace. I took whatever work I could find. Drove deliveries. Cleaned offices. Managed emails for a startup that paid in gift cards some weeks. My resume, once filled with glowing titles and high-level clients, sat untouched. No one wanted a broken man with a gap in his career, no matter how polished the excuse. But something happened in that quiet. With no one to impress, I started to hear my own voice again. It was faint at first, buried beneath shame and exhaustion, but it was mine. I opened my old laptop, the one I hadn't touched since before everything fell apart. I built websites for fun once. I used to spend hours lost in code, making digital things that worked even when life didn't. I started again. First, a simple landing page. Then a site for a friend of a friend who needed a portfolio. A few people paid. Not much, but enough for a real desk, a chair that didn't hurt my back, and a decent router. And with every project, something came back to life in me. Not pride. Not yet. Just control. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't anything you'd post about. But it was mine. No family. No fake dinners. No more pretending I was someone worth loving just because I could pay for dinner. Now, I was just someone who refused to stay buried. The silence they left me in, I turned it into space. When you stop chasing applause, your life starts to sound like your own. 2 years passed. Not fast. Not easy. But steady. I didn't make a comeback. I built a foundation. One late night and long day at a time. My digital work expanded, freelancers started referring me to others, then small business owners. I hired 2 part-time assistants. I launched a tiny agency with a name only I understood. It didn't need to impress anyone. Clients paid on time. My bills were covered. I had savings, real savings, for the first time in years. No more side jobs. No more waking up wondering if I'd still have internet by sunset. I got used to saying no to things that didn't serve me. I got better at recognizing people who only reached out when they needed something. I never went back to my parents' house. Not once. My phone stayed quiet, and I liked it that way. Whatever version of me they toasted to being free of, they were welcome to bury. And then, one Thursday afternoon, an alert hit my inbox. A commercial property downtown had just gone up for private bid. The building name made me stop breathing for a second. It was theirs. The place where they had built the family business. The same space where I had once helped paint the walls and install the first shelving units. Where I'd cleaned floors during the holidays because family shows up when it counts. Now it was hemorrhaging money. I did some digging. Sales were down. Staff had quit. Rent had doubled. And their lease was up in 6 months. They were trying to sell fast and quiet, hoping no one would notice the cracks. I didn't rush. I called someone I trusted. We ran everything through a shell company. Discreet, legal, clean. Within 6 weeks, the building was mine. Not out of revenge. Out of opportunity. It wasn't about them anymore. It was about what I could build there. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting to the past. I was designing the future. The most unsettling sound in Power's fall is the absence of control. The first sign they noticed came in the form of a certified letter. Not from me, of course. From the firm handling lease transitions. Polite, professional, final. We regret to inform you the current lease will not be renewed. Vacate the premises within 90 days. 3 sentences. No room to negotiate. No hint of the buyer's name. Just a deadline they couldn't charm or guilt their way out of. I imagined their reaction, my father pacing, already drafting emails, my mother in disbelief, and my sister pretending to have answers while checking her phone for someone to blame. I wasn't there, but I knew the script. I'd seen that play before. Then came the calls. First from unknown numbers. Then from ones I remembered but hadn't seen in years. The same people who had sat at that table and watched me be erased now stumbled through voicemail greetings like we were still on speaking terms. I didn't pick up. Claire saw the messages and raised an eyebrow. So, you're going to tell them? Not yet, I said. I wasn't hiding. I was giving them the silence they had once given me, letting it stretch long enough to be heard. Soon, their panic spilled onto social media. Vague posts about shady business practices and the death of community loyalty. There were comments from loyal customers asking questions. But no answers came. Because the truth is harder to say when it means saying you failed. Inside, I was calm. Not smug. Not vengeful. Just anchored. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their validation or their version of me to feel real. I didn't want them to fall. I just didn't need them to stand. And in that space, between their grasping and my silence, I realized something. They weren't the center of the story anymore. I was. When truth finally walks into the room, it doesn't knock, it opens the door and stands tall. The invitation came in a text from my sister. Family meeting. Tomorrow. You need to be there. No, please. No explanation. Just expectation. A year ago, I would have deleted the message. But now? Now I was ready. I walked into the cafe where they'd reserved the back room. Familiar faces looked up, parents, sister, uncle, even one of the old shop managers. They wore practiced smiles, the kind people put on when they're trying to appear composed in the middle of collapse. Michael, my father, stood first. We want to talk about the lease. About what's happened to the business. We think there's been a mistake. No mistake, I said, calmly. Just a change in ownership. A beat. You? My mother said, eyes narrowing. I nodded. The building is mine. Has been for a while now. The silence dropped like a curtain. My sister leaned back in her chair, her mouth parting just enough to reveal the question she was too proud to ask. How? I bought it legally. Through a firm. No tricks. No manipulation. My father's face hardened. You did this out of spite. No, I said. I did this because it was time. I let go of this family a long time ago. You all made sure of that. But I didn't let go of who I am. And I wasn't going to let what I built be dictated by what broke me. My voice didn't rise. I didn't flinch. I looked them each in the eye, not as a son or brother, but as a man who had rebuilt himself brick by brick, without a single one of their hands. My mother tried softness. We were scared. We didn't know how to help. You didn't try. My sister tried sarcasm. So what now? You turn it into a monument to yourself. I shook my head. No, it's not about me. It's about giving that space to people who never got a seat at this table. That's when I stood. No threats. No revenge. Just truth, laid down like a final stone in a bridge I no longer needed to walk across. And then I left. No one followed. The most powerful thing you can do to the past is leave it behind while building something that outlives it. Renovation started the next week. I didn't post about it. I didn't make a press release. No loud signs or billboards. Just blueprints, fresh paint, and a crew that understood the mission. We tore down the old signage, the cracked linoleum, the rusting back office where I'd once been told to stay out of the way. Every piece that reminded me of them came down, and in its place, we built something open, a space for small businesses, startups, creators with no trust fund and no connections, people like I had once been, scraping by, full of ideas, and invisible to the rooms where decisions were made. I gave discounted rent to local nonprofits, installed meeting rooms, a podcast booth, a community cafe. My team, yes, my team handled it all. Designers, volunteers, local mentors. Some of them were former customers of my family shop. One told me, quietly, "I always thought you deserved more credit." I didn't answer, just nodded and handed her the keys to her new office space. Meanwhile, the messages from my family stopped. No more pleading. No more manipulation. They'd gone quiet again, but this time not because they dismissed me, because they couldn't deny me. There was nothing left to take from me, and everything I was building didn't need them to survive. And me? I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Free from needing to be understood. Free from rewriting what they'd done. Free from that small, strangling space I used to shrink myself into just to be accepted. I passed the new front sign on a Thursday morning. It wasn't my name on the building. It didn't need to be. What I'd created spoke for itself. Peace doesn't come when the past is erased. It comes when it stops steering your future. No one calls anymore. Not my parents. Not my sister. Not the people who used to ask for favors and follow them with silence. The ones who laughed behind closed doors. The ones who watched me fall and called it tough love. The quiet they left behind used to hurt. Now, it feels like air. The project has grown. New tenants. New ideas. A small conference for young entrepreneurs last month drew in more people than the store ever had. We hired a community liaison. We launched a grant program. The building hums now, not with money, but meaning. Sometimes I walk the halls before anyone arrives. I run my hand along the new wood counters. I sit in the corner seat of the cafe and watch the light shift on the floor, just to remind myself how far I've come. Not in dollars. In dignity. One of my favorite tenants, a single mom with a marketing agency she runs between school drop-offs, asked me recently, "Why didn't you name this place after yourself?" I smiled. Because it's not about me. It's about what we become when we stop needing permission to matter. She nodded. She understood. I don't think about the past much anymore. When I do, it's like watching an old movie with the sound turned down. I know what happened. I just don't need to relive it. They may never apologize. But I stopped waiting for them to. Because the final chapter wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I never needed them to be right in the first place. And that, finally, is what freedom tastes like.